Karen Tibbs wanted to move up at Bojangles restaurant, so she signed up for shift manager training, hoping to build a better life for herself. But instead, she got a late night call from her boss filled with sexual innuendo, and not long after, she was out of a job. Today, we are talking about the disturbing sexual harassment Karen Tibbs faced from her manager and what happened after she decided to speak up. So by the end of this video, you will understand how sexual harassment and retaliation claims work under federal law, how employers can be held accountable even for subtle or behind the scenes retaliation, and what steps you can take if you're facing inappropriate conduct at work. Hi, I'm Harlow Reed, employment lawyer, HR consultant, and creator of the HR Insider. And on this channel, I do more than share legally. Be sure to check it out. All right, let's get into it. The content shared on this channel is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional legal advice. Always consult with a qualified attorney or HR professional for specific guidance tailored to your needs. And hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. On March 20th, 2020, Karen Tibbs was hired by Bojangles Restaurants to work at one of their Greensboro, North Carolina locations. She reported to the restaurant's general manager, someone who would soon abuse his position of power. Now, his name hasn't been publicly released, and that's because this case was brought by the EEOC, and when the EEOC files a lawsuit, their focus is on protecting the identity of the person who experienced the harassment, not naming the individuals accused. So for purposes of this video, we'll simply refer to him as the general manager. Now, if you are not familiar with Bojangles, it's a fast food restaurant chain that's known for its Southern-style fried chicken made from scratch buttermilk biscuits and legendary Southern sweet tea. It was founded in July 1977 in Charlotte, North Carolina by Jack Folk and Richard Thomas. The restaurant currently operates around 830 restaurants across 20 states, including its home state of North Carolina, as well as Georgia, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Texas. Now, in 2019, Bojangles was acquired by private equity firms for approximately $590 million. And as of mid-2025, the company is exploring a potential $1.5 billion sale. It's a restaurant that employs over 9,000 people, or team members as the company calls them. So this is a major player in the fast food industry. So here's what happened. On April 9th, around 9:30 at night, Karen Tibbs received a phone call from the general manager while she was at home. At first, it sounded like good news. He told her she'd been selected for a shift manager training program and asked if she was interested. But the conversation quickly spiraled. According to the EEOC's lawsuit, the manager talked about which Bojangles employees were sleeping together, described a story about a woman performing oral sex on him to pay for drugs, asked Karen Tibbs if she had ever had a threesome, and also asked when the last time was that she had sex. And that's not all. He asked if she enjoyed oral sex and finally told her he wanted to have sex with her. I mean, this guy was a real charmer. The very next day, Karen Tibbs reported the call to a supervisor. The supervisor apologized and admitted that she, the supervisor, that she knew the general manager had been sexually involved with other employees, but she took no action to stop the behavior. And in early May, things escalated because the general manager made more inappropriate comments, said he wanted to grab Karen Tibbs' butt, and then, according to the lawsuit, he actually did.
He did it.
The EEOC also alleged that he touched her breasts. Then Karen Tibbs complained again, this time to a different supervisor. And shortly after that, the general manager's area director approached Karen. But instead of protecting Karen or supporting her, yes, the area director was a woman, she told Karen to pick a new location and transferred Karen further from her home. The area director also instructed Karen not to tell anyone about what happened. Then came the final blow. Tibbs was removed from the training program she had initially been offered. Her career path was taken from her. And by June 2020, her job at Bojangles was over. Like most workplace harassment cases, this one started with a formal complaint. Now, the EEOC doesn't typically release the original charge that was filed by an employee, but they will typically only step in after an employee files a complaint with them directly. After receiving the charge, the EEOC investigates the complaint by reviewing documents, interviewing witnesses, and assessing whether there's reasonable cause to believe discrimination or retaliation occurred. If the EEOC finds evidence supporting the claim, it first tries to resolve the issue through what's called conciliation, which is basically a voluntary settlement process with the employer. And if conciliation fails, the EEOC may choose to file a lawsuit in federal court on behalf of the employee. And in this case, the employee was Karen Tibbs, and after investigating her claims and failing to reach a settlement, the EEOC filed a lawsuit on her behalf against Bojangles restaurants on September 7th, 2022. The lawsuit alleged sexual harassment, retaliation for reporting it, and wrongful exclusion from that training program that Karen was so excited to become a part of. They sought back pay, compensatory damages, and punitive damages, and injunctive relief. Now, when we talk about injunctive relief, we are talking about a legal remedy that's not about money, it's about change. Injunctive relief is a court-ordered requirement that the employer take specific actions to correct or prevent illegal behavior in the future. And that might include things like implementing anti-harassment training, revising company policies, or even agreeing not to hire a particular employee that is involved in the misconduct. In other words, it's the court's way of saying, you may have settled this case, but you need to make sure you fix the problem. So the EEOC, they wanted the court to make sure Bojangles took real steps to stop this from happening again and to protect future employees, not just address what happened to Karen. Now, if you've seen any of the other videos on my channel, you know I like to take a moment to explain how employers defend themselves against these lawsuits. But in this case, there are no public statements or court filings where Bojangles elaborates a formal legal defense against the EEOC's claims. The publicly available information focuses on the EEOC's investigation and allegations. Ultimately, Bojangles chose to resolve the case through a settlement and consent decree rather than litigate it further in public. And in December 2023, Bojangles agreed to settle the case by paying $20,000 to Karen Tibbs, implementing training on harassment and retaliation, and promising not to rehire the general manager at the center of the allegations. I've discussed covert retaliation here on my channel, and it's something I'll continue to highlight because it happens more often than people realize, and this case is yet another clear example of that. Because what happened in this case, the retaliation didn't come in the form of a firing right away. It started with being removed from a training opportunity, and then it was followed by a forced transfer, and eventually Karen lost her job. That's retaliation without the usual fireworks. Retaliation doesn't have to come in the form of a termination. Denying someone training or advancement opportunities after they report harassment is still retaliation under the law. And when a company knows a manager has a history of misconduct but fails to act, that's more than negligence. That's exposure to liability. When we talk about these cases, it's important to remember that these are real people. They're not just a headline, and I try to bring that home in every video. And in this case, I imagine that Karen Tibbs was someone who just wanted to do more with her life. Maybe the odds were stacked against her for a long time, and then finally she got a break. She was offered a spot in the leadership training program. And that opportunity, it probably felt like a turning point. It may have been the very first time she truly felt proud of what she was building for herself. And then you have a predator, someone operating under the guise of a leader, abusing that position of power to exploit vulnerable people. We can't forget that this general manager, he told Karen that a woman once gave him oral sex to buy drugs. That wasn't just storytelling. He was testing her, filling her out. And when she didn't take the bait, he didn't just back off, he punished her. What's worse is that the larger organization didn't act when they had the chance. And the retaliation that followed, being excluded, transferred, and ultimately pushed out, told to keep quiet, It's part of a pattern that far too many people recognize. What Karen experienced was worth far more than the $20,000 settlement she received. That's how society often sees these things. Every violation comes with a price tag. And too often, that price tag doesn't come close to matching the emotional and psychological hardship the employee experienced. But in this case, there is good news because she made a real difference. Because of her, Bojangles agreed to implement harassment and retaliation training. And that may not erase what happened to her, but it could make it easier for the next employee to speak up and hopefully make it harder for the next predator to operate in silence. Now, if you're a manager and you're unsure of what your role is when something like this happens, or you just want to make sure you're handling it the right way, I have a full harassment prevention training video just for you. It includes real life examples, a quiz, and step by step guidance on what the law requires. You'll find the link in the video description and pinned comment below. If you've ever been in a position like Karen and you feel harassed, dismissed, or pushed out simply for speaking up, please know that you are not powerless. The law is on your side, and cases like this are proof of that. So let's talk about what you can do if you're facing something similar. The first thing you can do is to document everything, report it internally, and go to HR. And if anyone touches you inappropriately, that's not just harassment, that could be a crime. You have every right to file a police report. You can also reach out to the EEOC or speak to an employment attorney to understand your options. And please don't go through this alone. There are people and resources that can help you. And if you want more real legal cases that expose what happens behind the scenes at work and what you can do about it, subscribe to the HR Insider. Your rights matter. I'm Harlow, and this is the HR Insider. Thanks for watching today. I'll see you in the next video.